Former Supervisor Alioto, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So you can introduce yourself and then I have some predetermined
Questions.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Everybody, thank you very, very much. Whenever I come to an Arab American event, it always looked like my family. Everybody, we all have this, Sicilians, of course, a lot of Arabs in Sicily, all have the same eyes, so it's a very welcoming thing to me. My name is Angela Alioto. I am running for mayor of San Francisco. I'm third generation. My grandfather Alioto came from Sicily in 1889. And my father and grandmother were born in North Beach in San Francisco. So it's three-generation, full-bred Sicilian on all sides, but third-generation San Franciscan. Let me just say why I'm running for mayor. I am a civil rights lawyer. I have been for the last 17 years. I represent race, national origin, disability, religion, association, sexual orientation, and gender. I have had incredible successes throughout the United States of America in the courtrooms. As a matter of fact, I won the first Arab American Muslim case in San Francisco federal court against Radio Shack. Was one of my first, and Lucas was one of my first religious victories, and it was a great victory. That was only 4 years ago. So I'm running for mayor, though, as the mother of 4 and grandmother of 5. I'm the only parent. I'm the only one involved and serious about making sure families stay in San Francisco that's in this race. I'm the only parent out of the top 4. But I got into the race because as a supervisor, I did some amazing legislation. It had to do mostly with health discrimination, the MBE laws, the minority business laws, the small business laws, the Small Business Advisory Commission. Those are all very, very important things to me. But I got into this race because of homelessness, because of the amount of people sleeping on the streets, because of the amount of poverty in the streets of San Francisco, in one of the wealthiest cities in the world. So many poor people sleeping on the streets. It's just totally unacceptable. I got into this race because San Francisco looks, for a national newspaper to call us a slum was shocking to me. That just literally is like, okay, stop. We need to do something now. We need to take the poor off the streets. We have the housing. Don't let anyone tell you we don't have a place to put them. We do, and we always have. Gavin Newsom and I did a 10-year plan to put the chronically homeless into their own units with support, meaning medical. So it's permanent supportive housing. Those 3 words are key to housing all of the homeless. The hardest to house are the ones we housed, the chronically homeless, the ones that have been on the street for 4 to 6 years, that are really live on the street. Very hard to get them off. And we got over 4,000 chronically homeless people off the street by 2012. And then tech came to town. And I think this is a major, major issue. When the tech industry came to town, the city government wanted them so badly because of the downturn in 2008, 2009, wanted them so badly that they gave them these ridiculous tax incentives. But when they gave the billionaires, literally, tax incentives, they did not give those tax incentives to the small businesses. They didn't help the small businesses at all. As a matter of fact, so much of this new migration into San Francisco of the employees that belong to these large buildings, so much of it has hurt our small businesses throughout the city. Whether it's on Terraville, whether it's on Lawton, wherever. North Beach is a mess. Half of the stores in North Beach are closed. I've never in my entire life seen anything like that. Half of the stores over here, we were just walking down Terraville yesterday. They're putting MTA, first of all, MTA, DPW, and Park and Rec, they need new directors. Yes. Okay? They need new directors. They've been there too long. They don't understand what San Francisco needs, and it doesn't seem like they are caring what San Francisco needs, but they're catering to the billionaires in a certain part of District 6, to the detriment of the whole rest of the city. It's quite amazing what's happening. So when I decided to run for mayor, it was principally because of homelessness, dirty streets, congestion, and affordable housing. Nobody can live here. No, do you realize that when politicians talk about when they talk about affordable housing, okay, you're going to build this house at 16th and Mission. We want you to make it 40% affordable. Do you know what 40%, do you know what affordable means? $130,000 salary is affordable. So where are the people that make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000? Where are they? The nurses, the teachers, the firefighters, the police officers, emergency services. We are an earthquake city. We need to keep our emergency services in San Francisco. And to do that, we need to do specific housing for those categories, nurses, teachers, and emergency services. But I also believe we need to do specific housing for our small businesses in San Francisco because they are in such despair right now, and it's so obvious. If we lose our small districts, our small businesses, our small communities, our cultures, you know, I'm the only one in this campaign who's talking about culture, and I'm talking about culture because, first of all, I'm a Sicilian. I couldn't be more Sicilian. I want North Beach to stay North Beach. I want everybody to leave North Beach alone. Stop picking on the Italians because I'm coming into the mayor's office. So, you're not going to be able to pick on us anymore. But having said that, the Italians have been under siege over in North Beach. But we have Italy, we have, you name it, every country in the world in this great city is represented. And so we're iconic. We are an iconic city. We're a city that people in other countries talk about San Francisco. And I want to keep it that way. And the only way we're going to keep it that way is our neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods and our small businesses in the neighborhoods. And so I am a neighborhood mayor, and I will make sure that I do all I can to promote the small businesses in San Francisco. And I say this everywhere I go. This is just about all I talk about, because I believe that once we take care of the homeless situation and clean the streets with new directors, and do something about the permitting in this city. Permitting is a disaster in this city in many ways. I mean, I'm sure some of you have permitting issues with your stores, but the restaurants have permitting issues. The builders have permitting issues. People trying to build housing have permitting issues. So all these things are obstacles that the government loves to throw at the citizens. And as a consequence, I'm someone that just goes right to the chase, doesn't let these obstacles hurt who we are, the soul of our city. And so that's why I'm in this race for mayor of San Francisco. I would love to take any questions any of you might have.
So we have
wonderful.
having you moderating.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Johnny, how are you?
Thank you, Supervisor.
Good.
So our first question is in regards to the Joint Terrorism Task Force. The San Francisco Police Department pulled out of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force amid controversy over the Trump administration's travel ban and concerns that participation in the task force might violate local laws protecting immigrants and religious minorities. However, current law enforcement officials said this could weaken efforts to detect and stop terrorism plots in the Bay Area. Do you support the San Francisco Police Department pulling out of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force? Yes or no, and why?
I don't support it. And I'll tell you why I don't support it. I think that it is very important for the San Francisco Police Department. I'm the only candidate that doesn't support it. I think it's very important for us the San Francisco Police Department to speak to the security and for security to speak to us. I think communications are very, very important. Because we're a city that people, we're a famous city. People go to famous cities, and this is for any kind of terrorist act, especially domestic terrorist acts, especially schools. With the domestic terrorist acts that we've had the last, I don't know how long, but the last 4 years have been devastating with domestic terrorist acts, and as a consequence, I think as the mayor of the city, who is basically the head over the police department and the liaison with national security, I think it's very important that there be a good relationship. In this race, the divide between the government and the different parts of the government and tech industry and the community is terrible. Nobody speaks to each other. And that's been very, very obvious. But I think that communication is important. Hi.
I'm Magda, I'll be another moderator here.
Okay.
So, a high concentration of the Arab American families reside in the Tenderloin, Nob Hill, North Beach, and Chinatown neighborhoods. Many students have suffered from anti-Arab and Islamophobic rhetoric that has increased drastically after the election of Donald Trump as president. What will you do as a mayor to ensure the safety and confidence of Arab American youth in SFUSD?
Okay. USD?
Unified School District.
Oh, in the Unified School District. I just came from their talk. Yeah, I'm a civil rights lawyer. I represent many Arabs for many different reasons, just because of the way they're treated at the workplace. I'm a zero tolerance person, and when I say zero tolerance, I mean zero tolerance. You don't call anybody any names. You don't treat anybody any differently because of where they come from or who they are or what they're wearing. And I have to tell you something, I've been extremely successful in the courtrooms of America, here in Houston, in Atlanta. Those are all Arab American cases. You have to fight back. You can't take it. You have to stand up and tell the workplace you're not going to take it. But when it comes to the school system, you know, the minorities in the school system, I saw all the charts this morning. It's just really terrible, the disadvantage a minority child has. The mayor of San Francisco does not have direct jurisdiction over the school district, okay? However, a powerful, strong mayor can take control and be able to fund, I personally did the children's budget for after school and before school. But you know, I believe that the lessons in school of parity, of teaching people not to discriminate, education, 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 I think that's essential because you know something? Some of the kids are not getting that at home. And if they don't get it at home and they're not getting it at school, they won't get it anywhere, right? They won't get it anywhere. And you have to learn to be tolerant, especially if you have parents that are not so tolerant. So education in the schools also. So funding and education, I could affect as the mayor before and after school, but not during the curriculum.
As you know, Prop E is San Francisco's law banning flavored tobacco and nicotine products. Many in the Arab American community not only find Prop E culturally insensitive, but racist because it targets Arab American merchants and consumers. Small businesses are already overregulated. Why ban the sale of these products and not tobacco in general? Do you support Prop E, yes or no?
Well, now you're gonna catch me. I wrote the smoking ban, okay? I wrote the first smoking ban in the United States of America. Then I wrote 27 other pieces of legislation that were aimed at Joe Camel, who was getting to our children. But I want you to notice, even though I wrote the first smoking ban in the United States, which by the way went all over the world, the president of Ireland called me just a few months ago to thank me because the health rate, the cancer rate, the emphysema rate, the heart, all of those diseases went down overwhelmingly in the city governments. But I banned smoking in the workplace. I banned it in Candlestick Park. I never banned smoking. There's a big difference. You know, as I understand it, E goes a little further in actually banning the products, okay? And so when they first came to me, I just have to say, I'm pretty sure I'm yes on E, I'm pretty sure. But when they first came to me, I didn't realize they were banning the product. On the other hand, you know, I'm the one that banned cigarettes, so I've got to be honest with you that health was my #1 issue, and the children in the schools evidently have a major issue with this stuff.
And just to follow up with that, I think a lot of people do realize that sentiment. However, you are seeing lax regulation in regards to cannabis and cannabis flourishing. So a lot of people are looking at this as an attack on small merchants who do sell, you know, flavored tobacco and hookah.
Right.
And a lot of people think that it's just an easy win for politicians. This is something that they can get past. It makes their legislative history look good. So what do you say to that?
Well, I'll tell you something, it's not easy. I've been to many, many stores, like over on Polk Street and over on Haight Street the other day. All of the stores I've gone in have told me they have this problem with what Prop E does to them. And so I don't think that there's any reason Well, see, it's hard for me to say I believe it, racism to me is serious. To say it's racist, racism to me is where someone is almost tortured because of who they are, their status as a person, that they can't change. You can't change being black or Arab or Sicilian. You can't change that. You can't change being a woman. So racism to me is a very elevated, serious issue. I would find it very hard to believe that anybody did this specific legislation to be racist against small businesses. I just would find that hard to believe. I think to prove the racial animus of that would be hard to believe. I do know that the arguments they put forward are for children. That's been an education for me, how rampant it is. But the medicinal marijuana, that's going to be a big issue. It's got to be regulated, much more regulated than it is now. And I think that a lot of the small businesses need to be deregulated. I think there are way too many permits needed for a small business. The other day, the tobacco guy was telling me that he paid like 6 taxes on almost the same product.
So that leads me to my next question, which is, do you think San Francisco is small business friendly?
No, I don't. I think it's terrible what's going on. And one of my mailers is finally getting mailed. This has been the saga of running for mayor with the ethics department, but one of my mailers is finally going out, and it is all about neighborhoods and the neighborhood stores and turning around literally the tsunami that is occurring with tech industry. And that tsunami is devastating our small businesses, as I first said. Another issue is, the vacancies of these buildings. When you have a vacancy in the middle of your neighborhood grocery store and you start boarding it up, that vacancy causes a blight in the street. And then you're going to have every other city problem that exists. Like if you go to North Beach, the 500 block of Columbus Avenue has got over 17 vacancies. It's boarded up. So now homeless people are sleeping in front of it, right? And it's filthy dirty because the city doesn't go clean where the homeless people are. So all of that will change. But as Mayor Alioto, I can promise you I will make small businesses my priority. That is my whole campaign. And small businesses and homelessness.
Recent studies have shown that an estimated 25% of vehicle miles traveled in San Francisco are done by TNCs, and 70% of congestion-related traffic violations are committed by TNCs. Do you feel that they should be regulated by the city? And if so, what means are you willing to pursue legally, legislatively, or otherwise to do so?
Okay, what are you calling TNCs?
Like Ubers and Lyfts.
What does it stand for? What is TNC?
I think it's congestion. Transportation network congestion. They know where I stand on this. They've already called me because I'm pretty outspoken about it. We have 60 or 70,000 cars in San Francisco every day. All right, 60 or 70,000 cars that are not taxed. There's no sale tax. They're doing business in the city. My little law firm does business in the city, and I pay business tax. They're not paying any taxes. And this nonsense that they're regulated by the state of California, PUC, and not by us is baloney. They're in our city with a strong advocate in City Hall. You will have someone that will get them regulated and also have them pay taxes, and then the taxes can go to cleaning up and fixing the potholes in our streets. Our streets are a nightmare. Let me just say one thing about MTA. Have you all ever noticed, I have to tell you this because it's a place where you really save money. Have you ever noticed that sometimes they'll tear up a street, they'll put in the new sewer, they'll cover it up, make a new street, and then they'll go back and tear up the same street?
2 or 3 times, yeah.
Unbelievable. Okay, so I stopped him. I said, "Hi, I'm Angela Alioto, what are you doing?" And he said, "We're putting the pavement on the street." They did this 4 times on Columbus Avenue. I said, "But why are you doing it? I saw you put the new street on last month. Why are you doing that?" And he says, "Because we are a sole source contract exemption." I said, "Wait a minute. A sole source exemption contract is when you want a painting and you give a sole source exemption to only a Picasso. You've got to be a Picasso. All right, you guys are digging a hole in the street. How is that a sole source exemption? Because sole source exemption contracts don't have competitive bidding, the efficiency is low, and the efficiency is high when you have a competitive bid, and the cost is low. When you have a sole source exemption, the efficiency is low and the cost is high. So this guy, this subcontractor in the street, he says to me, well, tell you the truth, we're putting another street on top, we're going to tear this up, put another one on top, because we have more money in the sole source contract. I said, do you see those guys over there that are laying on the street in poverty with sores all over their bodies? How can you possibly waste that money that way? He said, don't talk to us. We're subcontractors. We don't work for the city. The city gave us the contract, right? Well, that's MTA, and that needs to stop, and that's millions and millions and millions of dollars that can go to making the city what we want to make it, which is a healthy city with the backbone of our city, strong businesses. It isn't the chaos that we presently have. I'm sorry, but I had to tell you about those social source exemptions because it's massive money that we could be diverting to mental health and to get drug addiction and all of that off the streets.
And that kind of leads me to the next question, which is a large part of the homeless issue in San Francisco, which is everyone's number. A lot of people.
There's part of the question, you know, what she's gonna do about it.
Yeah, I'm leading up to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
As you know, homelessness is a huge issue that affects all San Franciscans, no matter where you live and work. And it's kind of tarnished our reputation in many ways. And that being, you know, a lot of that is systemic, you know, drug abuse and mental illness for these people. So what measures, you know, and I've been around enough to hear many politicians talk about homelessness and how they're going to fix the problem. It's just getting worse. There's people being violently attacked. How, as if you're the next mayor of San Francisco, how are you going to, within the what's your first 60, 90-day action plan to target and fix this homeless problem?
Okay. There's no person in this race that has my experience. Nobody. I have worked on homeless. I'm Franciscan. I don't know. I'm a member of St. Francis's Third Order, and I started my own order. St. Francis was married to Lady Poverty. Okay, so I have literally spent 45 years of my life contemplating St. Francis's concepts of Lady Poverty and, of course, everything coming from Jesus. So, having said that, everything, the flowers are Jesus, everything is Jesus with St. Francis. And the guy on the street is Jesus with St. Francis and with me. We did a homeless plan. Gavin Newsom and I did a homeless plan in 2004. We put 60 people in a room that hated each other. They hated each other. We had the Coalition on Homelessness, and we had the Hotel Council, the Restaurant Association, the Archdiocese. We had everybody. We had everybody in the city, the interfaith group that was concerned about homelessness. After 6 months, we put together a plan that we started immediately. And within 8 years, we housed 4,600 chronically homeless people on the street, 4 to 6 years, triple diagnosed. We housed them in a unit of their own with a minute clinic, which is a mini hospital on the first floor. So there would be a mini hospital close to the housing within 7 blocks. And we charted them throughout the city. In 2012, when Gavin went to be lieutenant governor, and I went back trying my cases, Tech came to town. And instead of keeping the buildings in the pipeline for the formerly homeless, we were so successful. You all, please believe me, that was the most successful program ever. And we got more federal funding than any city agency has ever gotten because I made the federal homeless czar my best friend. My best friend. I mean, his name's Philip Mangano, and he has housed more human beings than you could ever imagine. And he's on our campaign with us now because the problem's gotten so out of hand. So to answer your question specifically, the first thing I will do, I will start with the tents. I will start 1 tent by, like Mother Teresa said, 1 tent by 1 tent. There are only about 150 of them. They're the most chronic people in the streets. We're going to go tent by tent, and we're going to you triage them either into, well, first of all, you have drug rehab and alcohol rehab, but then you go either into medical facilities or go into a unit. Now the 4,600 that we put into permanent supported housing, which is a unit, 94% lack of recidivism. 94% of those people are still in the unit we put them in 10 years ago. That's a huge success rate. So yesterday, I called, so my first job will be the tents. And then at the same time will be, did you all see the BART station video on Channel 5? Okay. This is San Francisco, this is the United States, this is not a third world where no, I was so stunned that they could be slumped over with the vomit next to them, the next person slumped over, the next person slumped over. These are literally our brothers and sisters. We just walk by them while they're slumped over, killing themselves. It's stunning to me. And as a consequence, that will be right there with the tents, is going to be taking anybody doing drugs, those serious kinds of drugs, off the streets immediately and getting them help. And there are very many legal ways to do that without a conservatorship. But we cannot let them sit there and kill themselves. We can't. As a civilized society, we must help them. And so that will be one of my very first, I mean, that just stuns me that that's going on. And plus all of our children are seeing this. I want San Francisco to be a children's city again. Families. We have 14% families. When I was president of the Board of Supervisors, we had 30%.
One more question? Sure. The migration scene hosted today by the Arab Cultural and Community Center.
Right.
However, our space is old and limited, and we have been petitioning the city for years to help get us a remnant city property to build a center and housing for our elders. How are you willing to help?
Oh, I'd love to do that. I would, that's funny, the Irish want a potato famine statue they've been trying to get for 15 years. So when I went to speak to the Irish, I said to them, where do you want it? I will put it there. Where do you want it? You know, I just stop the bureaucracy. These things are really important, you know. Absolutely I would help you, especially for the elderly, get a place, because there are a lot of empty spaces in San Francisco, in the thousands, and nobody's offering them up. But no, with me, believe me, you are going to see a cultural renaissance, a cultural and a human suffering renaissance is going to stop what's been happening to our city. So absolutely, I would be right. I would love to help you. See, that's fun. Dealing with homelessness is not quite so fun. But getting you a place for the elderly, we did that in the homeless plan. We had 4 stories that formerly elderly, then 2 stories disabled, and then the top 4 stories were the elderly. And so we had mixed housing in several of our units. So I'm very good at that.
So, one more question from the audience in regards to San Francisco's sanctuary city policy. What are your plans for changing San Francisco's sanctuary city policy? What are your views on the policy as well?
Well, so is this about all the news of the last 3 days, or is this not all? Okay. All right, I got it. I haven't been asked that yet. I've been out on the campaign trail, so I've done pretty well without getting yelled at. I wrote the sanctuary law. I wrote it in 1991. And I wrote it because at Club Elegante, which is a massive club in the Mission District, Club Elegante got raided one night. The police called the INS at the time now, called the ICE, and they arrested 400 men and women that night. And the next day, they put them on airplanes. Okay? So as a president of the Board of Supervisors, and as a supervisor, it was just before, because I continued doing the law, we had all these children sitting on the stairs without their parents. It was absolutely a crisis situation. So I had hearing after hearing, after we reunited the kids, I had hearing after hearing about making San Francisco, if you are fleeing a war, if you're fleeing a country that's trying to recruit your child to be a member of a gang, if you're fleeing a country where there's famine and you can't eat, you are welcomed in the city of St. Francis. It's that easy. So that's what I wrote, and that's what I did. Then in '94, I went back and did an amendment that excluded felons, because for some reason, felons were using my law to stay in San Francisco after serious felonies, murder, rape, child molestation, serious stuff. So I said, no, we're not protecting felons, okay? In 2013 and 2016, Supervisor Campos went back and amended my law and added serious felons. So as the law is right now, you can commit 3 serious felonies within a 7-year period and not be deported, okay? I don't buy that. So my ordinance that I introduced 4 days ago, believe me, I'm shocked at how much uproar this ordinance has caused. I really am. I mean, I'm shocked at some of the statements of some of these politicians. And one thing that it really showed me is the lack of connection between these politicians and people. It's just a total disconnect. So I don't know why they're so excited, but to call me a racist is a little ridiculous. When I wrote the law, and I'm a civil rights lawyer, and I've spent 35 years of my life or more taking care of the poor and sick. So they can call me whatever they want. The public is not going to believe it. My ordinance takes out serious felons from being protected under the sanctuary law. It's that easy. If you have a serious felony, you cannot get protection of the sanctuary law. It never included felons. It should have never included felons. Because you know what? When you put groups of felons in that are allowed to use the protection, you dilute the importance to the families and the people that really need the sanctuary law because they're fleeing serious situations. And so I'm very adamant about this. I'm not backing down. It'll be on the November ballot, and I predict it'll have over 70% of San Francisco voting for it. What do you all think? You know the felon, you know,
Why didn't they change the law in the first place?
to protect felons.
Yeah.
To protect felons.
Yeah.
Why do they want to protect
Why did
You
they?
got me. I keep asking.
Why did it happen?
Why did they amend it to add felon?
Yeah.
Oh, you got me. I honestly don't know. Maybe, you know, someone after me can tell you. I've asked Scott Wiener, Mark Leno, oh Lord. Let's see, Scott Wiener, Mark Leno, Dana Campos, they're all yelling at me on Facebook right now. I can hear them. I'm Sicilian, I'm not sleeping. Stop yelling at me. On the other hand, I can hear the immigrants that are working hard that are saying thank you. And I hear them all the time. But having said that, I keep asking them, why do you want to protect these felons? Why? Give me one reason. They can't give me one reason. Go on Twitter and look. They can't answer it. Give me one reason you want to save a convicted felon from being reported. I don't get it. But I'm doing it now, and I'm taking the hit, and that's fine with me because I'm doing what's right.
And we have one last question.
I think you said that 3 questions. I love it.
It's about the environment, and with climate change deniers taking prevalence in our federal government, how will San Francisco continue to take the lead on issues related to the environment, climate change, recycling, and so on?
Right. Let me just say that 2.5 years ago, with the help of Mark Benioff, who I'm sure some of you know at Salesforce, we did a huge campaign on the East Coast to welcome Papa Francesco's encyclical Laudate Si, which is an encyclical about saving Mother Earth taken from the Canticle of the Sun by St. Francis. So when we got involved in that massive environmental effort internationally, we all went to Paris and we experienced the climate change pact that we entered into with Obama, which was fascinating. And we brought back a lot of the tenets of the Laudate Si book and have attempted to apply them to the state of California. Jerry Brown's been incredible. Jerry Brown he went to the Vatican with me. Jerry Brown, Ed Lee, we all went for 2 weeks in the summer of 2015 and came back with all of the amendments, all of the different ways of changing government to make them understand climate change is no joke. And so I would implement all of those suggestions from C10 in Paris and also from the Vatican. But I have to say, Jerry Brown's done it on a state level that's formidable. He's really quite a genius when it comes to, evidently when it comes to budgets, and also when it comes to climate change. Very, very important issue.
Are there any final remarks you'd like to share with our
Well,
community?
Thank you very, very much. Thank you very, very much. I love all the questions. I really appreciate coming here. I got excited when I saw this on my schedule. I've been to about 10 other places today, and it just really goes to show the culture of San Francisco. I went to the Chinese Mother's Day with the opera singers at the library. And then I've been to so many places I can't even remember where they all are. But I was really excited to come here. I don't know, is Fred McGonagall still around?
No.
No? Oh no, he passed away. I was afraid to ask that question. Fred and I were very, very close. We went around to all the grocery stores and put my signs in it when I won the board presidency. He was an incredible guy. But I was excited to come because, of course, I have a serious relationship with this community. I always have, and I always will. So I would really appreciate your vote. Number one. You can make anybody else 2 or 3, that's fine. Numero uno, molto importante. Okay, thank you all very, very much from the bottom of my heart.